Okay, everyone, welcome back to This and That. Today I will be talking about thinking. So, it's easy to categorize thinking into overthinking, underthinking, and then this idea of thinking perfectly. Of course, there is always that notion of what defines overthinking, underthinking, and thinking perfectly. And as that is a subjective matter to the results that you want, and I am not a matter expert on taking insider info or taking past info and making a logical conclusion for future action, as you could not possibly know the everything that is going to happen or occur, right? If we could simulate the world, I would be well. If I could simulate the world accurately, I would be rich because I would have bought Bitcoin or something. But the bottom line to get into that is you have to curate your thinking to what is actually useful or productive. And there is multiple factors to this. I would start with discipline. Discipline is important because you need to actually be able to do the thoughts and actually be able to act on them. So, priority ranking coming soon. But of course, my new structure is trying to blurt out all the important ideas and then rank them. And hopefully, I do not lose my train of thought. But then there comes to actually focusing on the variables or what is at play, like what is important, what is actually going to affect what I'm working on, like is my thinking curated to doing something. And you have more control over your thought than you think, right? Thinking about your thinking, which is called metaconsciousness or thinking, is being able to actually curate your thoughts by thinking about your thoughts. I am actively thinking about what I am going to say. I do not know what I'm going to say immediately, but I have a general intention or purpose. I didn't rehearse this, but when I do rehearse for teaching, I think about what I want to say. I have slides to keep me on track, and I practice saying before I actually say it, because hashing out your talking before practice, right? It makes it easier the next time. In sports too, you want to actually practice before you play, so you don't have to think about the actions that you're going to do. It's subconscious. It comes naturally. So, yes, actually intentionally thinking out the things that you're going to do, that means imagining actually doing it and curating your thoughts in that way is going to be beneficial for your thinking. So, thinking about your thinking is making your thinking actionable, imagining the scenarios that you're going to do, right? Putting that in advance. And that is a skill that a lot of people don't actually do. It's like before I decide to drive, I'm going to play the music really loud and it might hurt my eardrums, or there's factors that I do not think about, like my cognition being directly impacted by my hearing, or maybe I'm tired, but I have to get to my destination. So instead of sleeping, I'm going to compromise, and instead of making it more likely that I survive, like driving slower because you're tired and you have slower reaction time, you're just going to drive the exact same but tired and run the risk. And most of this just comes from laziness, right? It's hard to actually think about the things that you're going to do, the immediate consequences of your actions, or you just don't think at all and you go based off intuition. And that's completely normal. But this is coming from people who compulsively think, as in you actually think or might overthink. You might be characterized by anxiety. This is my astrology sign speaking, not my actual astrology sign, but talking just out of my ass about things that might be characteristic of people who think a lot. The bottom line is that it's not going to apply to everyone, but actually learning how to think and how to organize your thoughts, which I recommend doing it chronologically, is important. And also when to stop your thinking. It's when it's destructive, it's when it's paralysis. So stopping your thinking when you are no longer actually thinking about anything, but thinking about inaction, talking yourself out of doing something, that's when you need to start worrying about if it is getting in the way of the things that you want, and thinking about what you actually want to gain out of anything that you do, because your time is a commodity and it should be spent transactionally. Most people don't recognize the fact that you are spending time on friends and you value other things that you could be doing, like investing in your career, or even doom scrolling or making content, something like I do, or investing in your hobbies. You would rather spend time with friends because it's more convenient, because it's more easy, because it's accessible than those other things, or just because it's easier. And actually recognizing the reason why you do things is something that I personally do compulsively, but might be actually beneficial for you to cut out the fluff in your life. Do stuff that you actually want to do. So, with that being said, let's rank them. Priority, discipline, most important. You need to actually be able to control your thoughts, as in, I have a thought and therefore I consequently get an action. Your thoughts cannot guarantee action in the way that your thoughts cannot guarantee results, but they can guarantee action, right? I can think, okay, I want to work on this coding project, and I can. It's not going to guarantee that my coding project turns out well, but it does guarantee that I at least work on my coding project, right? You are in control. Same thing with all of your hobbies. So if you are prone to doom scrolling and you let your attention and guide you and your intuition, I think intuition is incredibly important, especially for sports. You don't want to have to think about how to kick a ball when you're kicking it. You just want to think, okay, I want it in top corner, and then your body does the rest because you put in the practice, you put in the minutes. But you still have to actually, think and make that choice to train way before you ever get into the game. Think about that consequence. I have this goal. How do I get there? So constructive thinking or chronological thinking is next. You need to actually plan your thoughts, or at least organize them in a way which is conducive to the results that you want in life. That might sound really blatant and very obvious. You'd be surprised at how many people don't do it. And if you don't know, ask. Outsource your advice. Do a Google search. I am shocked by how many people live in ignorance and would rather ask their peers than just Google something which is factual and objective. The majority of the time, as in LLMs very likely do not make mistakes, along with relevance, you should be able to read something and actually understand if the thing is reasonable or factual, or be able to cross-reference multiple sources in order to gain information. Or you just ask ChatGPT to do it for you, though I would asterisk on outsourcing your cognition. Just do a Google search if you're unsure. Get more information, right? Create a reference point. But chronological thinking, as in, if I want to get a certain goal, I should think certain things. If I want to do very well in track and field, I should work out. I should lift. I should do things that are beneficial. And then I realized this is a much shorter video than I intended it for to be, but my last point for thinking is to actually think about your thinking, metaconsciousness, to be able to stop yourself before you get to the paralysis point. I get really nervous about these videos, and I put them out on the internet, and I'm vulnerable, and I'm honest, and the way that I regulate my behavior in general, and also this, is by setting rules for myself and saying, hey, I'm just going to upload. Hey, I'm going to one-shot these. I'm going to put it out there, and I'm hiding behind this alias, so it's okay. It won't violate any contracts that I have written, and that's how I stop myself from spiraling. Recognizing that you're spiraling is the first step to actually solving the problem, and then you go from there. This is really short, so I don't think anyone's commenting, but I may or may not make a follow-up on this video. But bottom line is, thinking about your thinking, discipline, structure, and the actual action. Be in control and structure your thoughts to make something purposeful for you. And do not let your thoughts get in the way of your actions. Okay, that is all. It's a little short snippet. Bye-bye.